What's up everyone? Welcome back. Today, lots of requests for this actually. A bunch about like my schooling. I don't know why, but y'all are super interested all of a sudden about my major, everything like that. I guess it is kind of an unusual major. I'm majoring in neuroscience with a minor in business, which is not something you hear every day. So there's a lot of people who want to know about it and are like interested in it, everything like that. So today I'm kind of going off that topic and I'm talking more about internships because I actually just got my first internship ever and I am super excited about it and it is so much fun already. I started work this week, but I'm going to share my tips of how to get an internship. Alright, so a little bit of background. Yes, I'm a neuroscience major. I'm a sophomore, so I'm about halfway done. Just getting into like the major coursework, you know, all the neuroanatomies and higher psychs and all those fun classes, you know. But it is about time for me to start getting like some hands-on experience to figure out like what I want to do. Do I want to take just that major and run with it, or do I want to go to grad school, or what kind of grad school, you know, what do I want to do? So I've really been thinking about it and I really just wanted to get some hands-on experience, so that was like, okay, this summer, that's what I'm gonna do. So my first tip, definitely just start early. Start your search early. Kind of the early bird gets the worm in this case for sure. There's a ton of college students and I think you have to realize like in a lot of ways like the company is doing you a favor and they probably have plenty of applicants to choose from. Think about like the ratio of like businesses to college students. Like it's so much higher on college students, so there's so many other options that they could pick. So the earlier you are, the better for you, obviously. So start your search early, especially if you're looking for an internship for the summer. I would start January, February-ish. So yes, so I decided I wanted to do an internship. I've been looking around, I've been contacting a few different family members, and this is my second tip, is just network like crazy. The chances of you being able to get an internship go way up if you have a connection somehow to that organization, especially if it's through family or like a close friend. Well, I don't want to say like you will, but you just have a way higher chance of getting it. So kind of what I did, I actually reached out to 2 different people. One of them I am not doing an internship for. It's a medical field, so sometimes they're weird about internships. So I'm just shadowing, and it's a family friend. I actually went to church with him. He owns his own like ophthalmology practice, and all I did was like send a text to his daughter. We grew up going to the same church classes. I was like, hey, can I have your dad's phone number? And then I texted him, and boom, just like that. So I mean, you have to think of it from like a company perspective. If they're gonna pick somebody that they know, or at least like loosely know, or have a good recommendation for, over somebody who's random. So if you can find somebody who you have a contact to, that is very good, and use that connection. Also, chances are they're more likely to say yes if they know you, even if they usually don't do internships and stuff like that. So for my internship, I was actually at a work event, and my friend Michelle Money, her daughter was in an accident and had a really bad brain injury, and one of the doctors she worked with, she's like, she is doing like neuropsychology, and that's super like relevant to my field of education, and so it just worked out, and she's like, I'll connect you two. And so she connected us, and just that little bit of a name drop there really opened the doors for me, and I got my internship. So networking for sure is a huge part of getting an internship. For sure, take advantage of it. That is like my #1 tip. All right, my next tip is to do your research on the company. It just looks really good if you know what you're talking about. Chances are before they take you on as an intern, or if you're shadowing or something like that, they're going to do some sort of interview or meet you, or kind of like a trial run kind of thing. And it just looks really good if you know what you're talking about and you know the ins and outs of the company. Even if there's not a ton of information, just look on social media. Even if you can get some information on the person who you are working under, whether that's the CEO or whatever it is, if you have more information on that, it'll make you look really good in the eyes of the company. And I can tell you that from the point of view of an intern and as a business owner, it just looks really good if people know what they're talking about. You're more likely to get hired. So that kind of brings me to the next part of getting an internship. Once you have that connection, once you have that network, like what do? You know, like you're like, oh, like I kind of know this person. And this is where I think most college students get scared. They're like, oh, they're probably gonna say no, like, oh, do I really want to do this? You know, and most of them don't actually follow through. And that's where I kind of just think you just have to be tenacious and just go for it. And chances are, like, you'll, like, what do you have to lose? That's kind of what I always say. I'm like, oh, what do I have to lose? Like, I email and they say no, like, I just end up back where I started. So you might as well give it a shot. And I feel like most college students don't just reach out. If you have a company you want to work with, even if you don't have a personal connection, I wouldn't recommend DMing them. You can, but email them. Find their email on their website, email them, write a very convincing email. That's what my roommates did. One of them, she is very good at writing emails, so she wrote a very convincing email, and go on an internship. There's definitely ways to do that, and I think it really makes you stand out if you just go for it and you just kind of shoot your shot. Whether or not you think you're gonna get it, it just makes your chances higher. Also, kind of just going along with this point, is be creative. I've heard of some very creative ways to get an internship. It's kind of just like college applications. You really have to make yourself stand out. They're going to have a lot of applicants. Chances are they have lots of people to pick from, especially if it's a really, really highly sought out internship. I know in like the medical field, it's really hard to get an internship at a good place because there's tons of kids who want internships in the medicine field. So be creative. And I don't know if you guys have heard that story of the guy who, I think he was wanting some sort of business internship. So I'm not recommending this at all. Just the idea, because he disguised himself as like a Postmates food deliverer, and I think he had like a box of donuts or something, and he wrote on the top of it like, "This is my internship application." I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but he like disguised himself and then he delivered it to the CEO's desk. So then like the CEO opened it thinking it was like a box of donuts, and it was like some intern's application. And there's definitely things you can do like that aren't as rule breaking, where you can just like send the company a gift basket to the CEO or something like that, where you kind of guarantee that the CEO will see it, especially if you're like giving them something. It just looks really good. But as far as social media goes, you can definitely use it to your advantage, whether this is posting about the product or posting about the place. Just getting your name in front of theirs is really great, and then you can even slide into the DMs, you know. It's not as professional, but it can work, especially if you're looking to be like the social media strategist or something like that in the marketing field. You can do that, and you can ask that way. So you just kind of got to be creative, think outside the box. And honestly, just kind of a general tip is don't be too picky. Remember that any experience is great experience, even if it's not necessarily like exactly what you're studying. I'm studying neuroscience. I was thinking about doing ophthalmology. That's kind of been my like end goal, not really, but it's just kind of been an idea of like, maybe I want to do that for a little bit. And so I'm shadowing an ophthalmologist when I go back home for the summer, but my internship is actually in like neuropsychology and all this kind of stuff. So it's so interesting, and honestly, like going there and watching it, I'm like, oh, maybe this is what I should do, because it's so interesting and super cool. So if you guys want to hear a little bit about my internship, I'm working at a place that helps patients like recover from multiple concussion syndrome, or just like any post-concussion things where they have like pretty extreme symptoms, and they come through, and it's about a week of like training. It usually is a week, and they are there from like 8 in the morning till 5 p.m. Just doing like different cognitive therapies and exercise, and it's kind of like a boot camp for your brain in a lot of ways. They take like lots of brain scans, and I actually had to get one taken of my brain, which was super cool. I got to see my brain. But yeah, so the scans are super cool, and it's all super like forward thinking, and just their neuroanatomy and how it like applies to the patients is so cool to me. And I like sit there and I'm mind blown all the time. I technically don't start until the summer, but I'm picking up a few hours up until then, and it's been super interesting, and I really like it. So internships are way fun. I definitely recommend them to anybody. I've kind of been like telling everyone, I'm like, oh yeah, you should do an internship. It just is a really great way to learn, and I can honestly tell you, in the 10 hours I've worked at my internship so far, I've learned more about neuroanatomy than I have in my classes. So it's just very applicable, great way to learn, great way to figure out what you want to do. But yeah, that being said, don't be too picky. I know lots of people like paid internships, and of course that's definitely a factor that plays into it. A lot of times though, sometimes with these unpaid internships, they can turn into paid internships or even a job if you do a great job. I've heard plenty of people who get hired from internships, unpaid internships. Just go in there and wow the people you're working for, and they'll probably offer you a job. Maybe, you never know. But yes, those are all my tips, kind of general idea. Again, I'll list them is do your research, take advantage of social media, start your search super early, be very professional, show that you know what you're talking about and that you're interested. Then also be creative to get yourself in front of the company, and network through family and friends, which again, that is probably like the highest chance you're gonna get to get any internship, is if you know the person personally or through somebody you know personally. But yeah, just kind of shoot your shot. That's kind of the best thing, is you really just have to go for it. And again, what do you have to lose? Nothing. So DM that company you really like, or email them, or go for it. Ask your neighbor who is a doctor. The worst they can say is no, and you'll end up back where you started. So go for it, try it out. Internships are way fun. I think they're super cool. It's like you kind of just like get to like career search, but like without any attachments. So it's kind of really cool, and you get a lot of experience and a lot of exposure, and it's really good for any postgraduate school or job experience. So it just looks good all the way around, and it's way fun. So those are my tips. Hopefully that helped introduce you guys to the idea of an internship. I recommend them for anybody who is in college. I recommend shadowing for anybody who's in high school. Anything like that, any exposure you can get is great exposure. Hopefully this helped, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.